Well, howdy, y'all special little angels. Well, let me tell you what. February is here, and it's a very special, fabulous month for me especially. And if you're on my Facebook, you know why. Well, let me tell you what. This month, we're going to have a special little reading about Valentine's Day. And actually, it's one of the books I got when I was a kid. Let me tell you, I don't know how it survived all them years. But it's called A Sweetheart for Valentine. And it goes a little something like this. Well, it's by Lorna Bland. And let me tell you, starts out like this. It was hardly to be believed. There on the steps of a village hall was the largest basket, and in that basket was a blanket. And wrapped in the blanket was a red-faced, bawling baby. A big old baby, of course. Well, she belonged to no one, the poor dear, so it was decided she would belong to everyone, because the whole village of St. Valentine's adopted her, and she was named Valentine. And that brings me to February. February is a very special month about Valentine, so everybody get your little candy hearts out there, and you go find your special Valentine. Well, back to the book. Valentine, right then and there, had one great-grandmother, 3 great-grandfathers, 6 grandfathers, 7 grandmothers, 11 fathers, 11 mothers, and more brothers and sisters than anyone ever bothered to count. Well, it was a good thing, too. Valentine needed a lot of attention. She ate more than anyone in the village. I guess she had a big appetite. The more she ate, the bigger she grew. And the larger she became, the more she ate. Until she was eating more than everyone in the village. She must have been a very hungry little baby. Well, great-grandmother called a special meeting. Valentine, she's getting too big. We're feeding her too much, she said. She's just a growing child, said her mothers. She certainly is, said her fathers. She bawls so loud when she's hungry that it hurts our ears, and her brothers and sisters' ears as well. We'll all have to plant a bigger garden. And her grandparents, so they went out to the field and they planted the biggest, beautifulest garden they could find. Well, Valentine, she started outgrowing clothes. Great-grandmother called a special meeting yet again. Valentine can't trapeze around in her birthday suit, and birthday suit means no clothing at all, so always wear clothing, especially when you're a little child. Well, she'll catch a cold if you don't, and when you're a child, you don't want to catch a cold. Well, we'll try to sew her a new dress. That's large enough, said her mothers. Where will we get all that fabric? Asked her fathers. If she doesn't have to wear underwear, we don't either, said her brothers and her sisters, because they didn't like wearing clothes either, evidently. Well, forget the underwear, and her grandfather and grandmothers went all out to cotton to try to pick as much cotton as they could to make her some clothes. Poor little Valentine had no clothes. So, Valentine grew along with her house. She became a lovely young lady with a sweet disposition. Her brothers and sisters grew too. They found sweethearts and got married and had babies. Valentine became lonely. She longed for someone to have of her own. Great-grandmother called another special meeting. Valentine needs a sweetheart, he said. So, with her great beauty, that shouldn't be a problem, said her mothers. But it is many young men that love Valentine, but not one is big enough to carry her off, said her fathers. She may never marry, said her grandmothers, Probably not, said her grandmothers. Too bad, said her brothers and sisters. Valentine wept, and the village was flooded with her tears because she was like a giant. See how big she is? She got her own little house and everything. Well, let me tell you. Early one morning, a loud crash and a howling noise rose all the villagers from their crazy and cozy little beds. They came scurrying from all directions to find out what was causing the disturbance. It was hard to believe. There, stuck in the mud in the middle of the village, was a very large, very young man. Oh no! I think you have broken your toe, young man, said great-grandfather. Why are you walking around in the dark? The old man says, I've been walking around all night and all day, uphill, downhill, looking for a wife, said a young man. Well, this is your lucky day. Our Valentine would be just the girl for you, being great-grandmother. I wouldn't marry that red-faced, puffy-eyed, blueberry cold creature, bald, the young man. I certainly wouldn't marry that muddy, clumsy, snub Valentine. So, great-grandfather, he called a special meeting. They seem to be a perfect pair, he said, but they will not have each other. What will we do? He's not going anywhere for a while with that broken toe, said Valentine's mother. Let's just wait and see what happens, said her fathers. The way the man's heart is through his stomach, said great-grandmother. So always make your special other a great good dinner. Feed him and her grandmother's we will, and her brothers and sisters, so they all went to get big food for the man and Valentine. Well, fortunately they could. Valentine crying had caused the gardens to grow in giant, big plants and stuff to feed the little fruits and vegetables for the villagers. They was a little salty. So, the young man was kept comfortable and well fed by the villagers. But he was bored with just sitting around and waiting for his toe to heal. He began talking to Valentine. He told her of his travels and his loneliness. Valentine was so bored that she listened. As she listened, she began to smile. Perhaps he wasn't such a clumsy oaf after all. When Valentine smiled, the young man realized how beautiful she really was. By the time his toe healed, the young man and Valentine had become absolutely silly with each other. Marry me, Valentine, I love you dearly, said the young man. I love you too, but I can't marry you, said Valentine, as she started to sob and bawl like a baby she had been. Great-grandmother called another special meeting. What now? Why won't Valentine marry him? He wanted to know. We'll ask, said her mothers. Ask her quick before we're all drowned, because she was just raining down with tears. I can't marry him because I haven't a thing to wear, well, Valentine. And it was true. They hadn't been able to manage anything large enough for her to wear in years. I see a problem, said great-grandmother. A girl can't get married in her birthday suit. She certainly can't, said Valentine's fathers. It wouldn't be proper, said great-grandmother. Well, we'll just have to make her a wedding dress, said her brothers and sisters. So off they went to find the most beautiful plants and pollen and different things they could, like wool from lambs, to make her a dress. Oh boy. Valentine and her sweetheart was married on February 14th. It was a very large, beautiful wedding. Flowers everywhere. Great-grandmother performed the ceremony. Valentine's father gave away the bride. Her mothers cried. Valentine's grandmothers baked the cake. Her grandmothers and grandfathers made the music. Her brothers and sisters danced and sang, and everyone was merry. After the wedding, great-grandfather called another special meeting. I have decided that we will celebrate Valentine's Day every February 14th from now on, he declared. And of course, he's a Valentine family. And our next book, well, Again, this is a book I had when I was a child, and you know, February is a very special month. So I just picked out some of my old kid books, and no one decided to request any, so I put my own in. So this is by Walt Disney, and it's Rhymes, Riddles, Gags, and Giggles. And it's actually volume 17 from Walt Disney. Why do bees hum, it says. Why do cows wear bells? Because their horns don't work. Okay, the next one says, what happens after 5 years old? The little Mickey Mouse babies go, you get to be 6 years old. Well, what is the difference between an egg and the skunk? If you don't think to know, remind me never to send you by eggs. What's the best way to catch a squirrel? Go up a tree and hang like a nut. What looks like most half of a cheese? What could that be? The other half, of course. What must you do before you get off a bus? Well, for that answer, you got to first get on it. Well, what do you get when you cross a cow and a duck? Milk and quackers. What do you always say wrong? Is the opposite of, and that would be right. What side of the dog has the most hair? Well, you go look for it, but I think it'll probably be the outside. Well, who can jump higher than a skyscraper? Anyone. A skyscraper, it can't even jump off the ground. Well, the next one says, what should you do when it's raining cats and dogs? Be careful not to step on any of them little poodles there. And the next little riddle says, why did Goofy throw the butter out the window? Well, he wanted to see if the butter flew. And little Chip and Dale, they say, what do you have when your head is hot, your feet is cold, and you see spots in front of your eyes? Well, of course, you're going to see a polka-dotted sock on your head. Well, the next one says, what time is it when an elephant sits on a fence? And the answer to that, time to get a new fence. Because elephants, they don't really sit on very big little fences there very much. Okay, the little pigs here, they say if the 3 little pigs were under one little umbrella, why didn't they get wet? Well, of course it probably wasn't raining. Oh no, Goofy evidently went to the doctor, see? Doctor, he says, when my hand gets better, will I be able to play the piano? The doctor says, of course, that's great. I could never play the piano before. Little Daisy, duck here, she said, do you know it takes a sheep how long to make a sweater? And little duckling said, I didn't know sheep could knit. Well, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, their little riddle says, did you take a bath today? Because bath is a very special, important day of your daily routine. And the little dwarf says, no. Is anyone missing? So they never take baths. They're dirty and smelly. Oh, looky here. We have Pooh, Tigger, Kanga, Little Roo, and we have Rabbit and Owl. Can you see what's wrong with this picture? Well, let's see. Owl, his thing's upside down. His ladder's upside down. He's on his head. Well, I guess we have our own little owl back here barking around. Well, then we have Little Roo. He's hanging upside down from a tree. See if we can get that wolf to stop. Well, then we have Rabbit. She got a chair on her head. And Kanga, well, she's got candy canes. And it looks like it's summer, so you know it ain't December. And then, who's always eating honey? Well, let me think about that. I think that's going to be Tigger. No, that can't be it. It's probably Pooh. Wait a minute. Why is Pooh wearing Eeyore's tail? Where's Eeyore? He's hiding under the bushes. The tree went upside down. So, the next page, let's see what it says. Knock, knock. Who's there? Pig is who's there. Pig who? Pig up your feet so you won't twist. Well, that's kind of funny. And then Donald has the 3 little ducklings. And they say, knock, knock, who's there? Donald says, duck. Duck who? Duck, here comes the dessert, as they throw it at his face. That's so funny. Knock, knock, who's there? Boo. Boo hoo. Don't cry, little boy, says little Mickey Mouse. And then Dumbo over here with the little crows and the mouse says, knock, knock, who's there? Candy. Candy who? Candy, elephant, fly, or candy? Then we go back to the ducklings, and their knock-knock joke says, knock, knock. Donald says, who's there? Banana. Banana who? Well, they said, knock, knock. Donald says again, who's there? They said, banana. Banana who? Well, Donald, boy, he got tired of seeing this, and evidently he looked like he'd been asleep. So, knock, knock, who's there? Orange. Well, orange who? Aren't you glad I didn't say banana? No, that was a funny one. Our next page says, did you ever see a house fly? And you see the house with wings on its roof? And then it says, did you ever see a bus stop? And then Pooh Bear over here, he's got honey, 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 and he's dreaming about all these little things. It says, did you ever see a cardboard box? Well, it's got 2 little cardboard boxes over here boxing. And it said, did you ever see a fruit fly? Well, I ain't seen no oranges, bananas, or apples fly, but you never know what could happen. Then the next little thought Pooh says, did you ever see a horse fly? Well, I ain't never seen no fly on no horse, but I've seen a lot of horses on no flies. Did you ever see a bed spring? Like spring up in the air? No, but I've seen a lot of bed springs, but now they cover them up. Did you ever see a tuna fish? You got a little tuna over here fishing? A little fish fishing for tuna. Now that can't be right. Did you ever see a chair lift? No, I never seen no chair lift, but in that picture it looks like he's lifting pretty good. Did you ever see a toothbrush? Well, no, but if you go to the bathroom and you brush your teeth every night, that's always a good thing. You don't get cavities or gingivitis. Did you ever see a candy bowl? Like bowling the pins and stuff at a game? No, I never seen that either. Pooh was sure trying to figure it out. What if honeybees went to school? There'd be a lot of spelling bees. Oh. Well, what if Pebbles could play the trumpet? They'd have a rock band. The next joke says, what if front doors could talk? They would say, shut me up. The little kittens over here from Aristocats, what if kittens were tracing paper? Well, you know what? They'd be copycats. Can you see what's wrong with this picture? Well, let's see, she's turning the aristocrats, evidently. And you see a picture up here upside down. You see the little butler got the bones on top of his feet. And cats, they don't eat bones, but you never know. Well, then you see a water hose on the inside of a house. And then you see a tea kettle getting poured into a bag. And you see an actual human foot on a piano. That'll happen. Our next page, can you say the word to finish the rhyme? The rhyme goes like this. On Saturday night, we stay up late and eat our dinner off a plate. They have a little plate up here. The next rhyme says, when you're good, I always bake a double layer chocolate cake. They have a little cake right here. The next riddle says, here is my eye and here is my nose. At the end of my feet, you can see my what? Toes, I bet, because it has a little foot here. The next riddle says, I keep my pretzels in a can, and I fry my eggs in a pan. It has a little pan here with Minnie and Goofy. When I go to sleep, I dream of a bowl of pink, and he's got ice cream. I thought Pooh Bear liked honey. Well, then he says, when the day is nice and sunny, bears go out and, of course, go find that honey. Then you go over to this little bear, I think, and this is from Friar Rabbit. He said, leaves are green and roses are red. When I'm tired, I go and lay my head on a bed. The next one says, I found a furry box. I would keep him in a box. So when the little man comes over, he finds a fox, and he drops the box on his head to keep him in there so he don't get eaten. Fish gotta swim, birds gotta fly. I gotta eat a blueberry pie, of course, and Tigger has all kinds of pies that he's eating. When a green thing hops upon a log, I always hope that it's a frog, because frogs usually hop. And you never know when you might find a frog laying around the yard somewhere. They go into the cool places. The thing that horses do all day is stand around and munch on hay, of course. They gotta have hay, and they also eat grain. When I want to travel far, I do not walk, I take the car, of course. You know, the thing with four wheels gets you from point A to point B, usually. Can you say this? Seashells by the seashore. Seashells for sale. Your choice. It has all kinds of shells. I wonder if anybody out there has ever got any shells. But you know what? They're always fun to get off the beach. And this one over here says, and this one too, silly sneezy shears 6 silly sheep. Knew that one was hard to say. Silly sneezy shears 6 silly little sheep. That was a tongue twister if I ever heard one. How quick can I say this, the beaver says. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? The next one says, how about this one too? Mickey Mouse, a mighty muddle mopping of mud. Well, that didn't sound right. Mickey makes a mighty muddle mopping of mud. That was kind of hard to say. Okay. And then you have the 3 little pigs here, and they're hiding with the little bad wolf. He's hiding behind that tree. Oh boy. And this one says, find 2 words that rhyme to make an answer. What is the elephant's trunk? What's 2 words that rhyme with an elephant's trunk? Well, let's think about it. Maybe a cat? No, not a cat. Maybe a hose or a nose. A nose could be another name for a trunk. What do you find out how to bake a cake? Well, I could ask my mother how to bake a cake or my grandmother, but let me think. They would tell me to go to a cookbook. And where do you think you get honey from? Well, of all the places I've heard, one, it's not good to go looking for honey, because it comes with bees, and bees sting. So they're usually up in trees or hollow logs where bees can live. And where do mice live? Well, that one's easy, of course. A mouse house. And what is a kitten caught in the rain? Well, a wet kitten. Let me see. How about a wet pet? That one sounds better. And what is a silly rabbit? Well, that's too funny. Of course, a funny bunny. And what do you get when you drop your chocolate bar on the beach? Not very good candy. I would call it sandy candy. And what is Donald's pickup called? Let's see, what could that be? There's Daisy, there's Donald, and the 3 ducklings. I think it's called a duck truck. And guess what? Well, it's February, and we've read all the books that we caught up on this month. And, you know, it's always special to have chocolate on Valentine's or someone special to spend it with. But one thing you always need to remember, and that's when you think pink, think of me. Love, Alize. And y'all have a special and joyful February month.